My name is Jelena, and I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer at age 34. What is it like to receive a cancer diagnosis? Shortly after I found out I had cancer, I started a journal to keep track of the appointments, the emotions, and how quickly day-to-day life changed. For the month of March, which is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, I'll be reading from that journal to share with you all the drama and the emotion that comes with getting a cancer diagnosis. To respect everyone's privacy, I've changed all the names to just the first initial, except for very close family members. This is my story. June 1st, 2016. The roller coaster ride began last Monday, May 23rd. I had been passing blood with my stools, and the blood was mucousy. So my nurse practitioner sent me in to get a colonoscopy just to make sure it wasn't anything serious. When I came out of the sedation from the procedure, the doctor brought John over and told me they found a mass, and she was 95% sure that it was cancer. She took a biopsy of it and of other locations in my colon too, and put a rush on those results. That Wednesday afternoon, John and I took Mael over to a friend's house so we could go alone to see Dr. H and go over the biopsy results. She seemed a bit upbeat when she took us back and started talking to us, but then she said that the result of the biopsy was that the mass was cancer. We all cried. She hugged me, then began explaining what the next steps were. A rectal ultrasound and a CT scan would be the next two tests that I would undergo to figure out how serious the cancer was and what stage the cancer was in. She would contact the offices that I would need to go to, and she said she would do everything in her power to get me in ASAP for both tests. Thursday evening, the imaging office called me to schedule my CT scan. Then Friday afternoon, the oncologist's office called to schedule me to see him the following Thursday morning. I didn't hear from the ultrasound office until Tuesday morning, but got scheduled for this Friday morning. Yesterday, May 31st, I went in for the CT scan. I had to drink 2 450 milliliter barium smoothies, 1 per hour before the scan. I finally went back for the scan at 11 a.m. I had to change into scrubs and got an IV put into my elbow pit. You have to stay still and hold your breath while being scanned. So the tech asked me if I could hold my breath for 30 seconds so they could do the chest and abdomen in one scan. I wasn't sure, so she said she'd just do them separately. The machine tells you when to take a breath and counts down how much longer you have to hold your breath. So that made it easy to know just how long I had to hold it for. After she took the first two, she came back in and said that the doctor would probably want a full chest and abdomen scan. So I held my breath for 27 seconds and got the full scan. Then she tested out the IV by sending a little saline through it. Then she added the iodine contrast for another set of scans. She warned me that I could get a hot flash-like feeling in my arms, throat, and groin, and that it could feel like I wet my pants, but I won't, and that the feeling would go away within a minute or so. Sure enough, the heat started in my throat and spread to my arms. Then, as the table started sliding into the ring and I needed to hold my breath, the warm feeling, it started in my butt, then worked its way to the front and made it feel like I peed myself. I had to try really hard not to laugh because it was time to be still for the scan. They came out clear though, so I stayed still enough. Then I had to wait a few minutes, got another dose of dye, and did one last set of scans. Then I was free to head home and finally eat for the day, since I had to fast for 4 hours before the appointment. Today I got a call from Dr. H. She said the CT scan results were in and that the oncologist I'm supposed to go see tomorrow will go over the results. She did say that my liver was clean, but there was something in my chest that they weren't sure what it was. So the good news was that the cancer hadn't spread all over my torso and there weren't cancerous spots popping up all over. I looked up where rectal cancer typically spreads to first, and most of the time, it spreads to the liver first. So that's good news that my liver was clear of anything. When I went in for my physical back in February, my nurse practitioner found a lump in my breast and had me go in for an ultrasound on it. She said it was most likely fibrocystic and nothing to worry about. By the time I went in for the ultrasound a few days later, the lump had disappeared, which is very common for lumps like that. They usually appear around the time that a period occurs, but I got an IUD put in last September, so my periods have been sporadic and I wasn't sure if it was approaching or not when the lump was found. I'm hoping that's what the thing that appeared on the CT scan on my chest is. June 2nd. No eating allowed today to prep for my rectal ultrasound tomorrow morning. I had an appointment at 9 a.m. to meet with Dr. M, an oncologist. He went over my CT scan results and said that rectal cancer is staged looking at 3 things. T, depth of tumor invasion in the rectal wall. N, the number of lymph nodes affected. And M, metastasis. He said it looked like I was a T3, N0, M0, but that the lymph nodes near the rectum can be hard to see in a CT scan. He said there was a chance it could be T1 or T2, but that T3 was most likely. He also said that the spot in my chest was an enlarged lymph node right in the center near my heart, but that it was very unlikely that it was from the rectal cancer because none of the nodes leading up to it were affected. I'm getting sent in for a PET scan on the 15th just to make sure it isn't anything else we need to be concerned about. If the tumor gets rated a T3, then my treatment would be radiation paired with chemo, then surgery to remove the tumor, then maybe adjuvant chemo to make sure there is no chance any of the cancer cells have spread and will grow elsewhere in my body. If it's a T1 or a T2, then they would just do surgery to remove it. He said that his prognosis is that this is curable, and that my worst case scenario would be that I would have to wear a colostomy bag for the rest of my life. Once he said that, there was a big weight lifted off of my shoulders, knowing that I will survive this. While I was meeting with him, he called a radiation oncologist to give him some more info on me, and a heads up that I'd be coming in to see him soon. That appointment was set up for June 17th. He also noted that if I needed radiation and chemo, it would most likely be low-dose versions of them, which would result in minimal side effects and no hair loss. The treatment would last 5 to 6 weeks, and it wouldn't start for 1 to 2 weeks. I was starving by noon, but the orange Jell-O stuff that I had eaten for my last prep, it did not taste as good this time, and I could barely choke down half of it before I had to just put it back in the fridge. This time for my prep, they had me pick up a prescription for Go Lightly, which is a gallon jug with powder in it that you mix water into. I had to drink half of it in 8-ounce increments every 15 minutes, starting at 4 p.m. It's pretty gross tasting, and it was hard to get the last few glasses down. The cramping wasn't as bad as with the Miralax prep, but the taste was really hard to get over. Then I had to drink the other half starting at midnight, and that was a really tough order. I had to wait about a half hour between a few of the glasses because I felt like I was going to barf. It was around 3 a.m. once I finished the jug off and made a few visits to the bathroom. June 3rd. I woke up really hungry this morning and couldn't wait to get in for my appointment so I could get knocked out and not realize how hungry I was. John worked from home to start the morning. Then we dropped Mael off at daycare while we went to the hospital for my EUS, which is an endoscopic ultrasound procedure. After I checked in at the hospital, I was taken back to a room right away to get ready for my procedure. The nurse pushed my IV needle in really slowly, and it hurt really bad. So she backed the needle out a little, then had another nurse come in to double check on it. The second nurse said that it had blown out, and they would have to take it out and redo it. Ugh. She jammed it in really quick in a different spot, which was painful, but it was at least quick. I've got a nice bruise on my arm from the IV, so I guess quick isn't the best method for getting it in. I didn't have any complications during the procedure, but was really groggy and loopy when I started waking up. Turns out that the tumor is a T3, and that a few nearby lymph nodes are affected, which bumps me up overall to stage 3. I was a little bummed that it looks like it spread to some lymph nodes, but I'm still being as optimistic as I can that I'll beat this and be back to almost normal within a year or so. The tumor is also only 4 centimeters in, so it's much lower than we thought it was. I was still really wobbly when it was time to leave the hospital, so I got wheeled out in a wheelchair while John went and pulled the car around to the door. On the way to pick up Mael, I had John stop at Taco Bell for a cheese quesadilla because I was starving and tired and just wanted to get home and get in bed and not worry about making something for me to eat. We sat in the parking lot while I ate it, and we called my parents to update them on what we found out. They said they've been so busy worrying about me, working in the yard, and getting ready for my sister Janelle's wedding, that they completely forgot that today was their wedding anniversary. They again said that whenever I need them, they'll fly out here and help for as long as we need them to be here, which I'm very grateful for. We got home around 2:30 p.m. and I ended up sleeping until 5. I only got out of bed then because I was hungry and wanted to eat some dinner. After dinner, I told Maëlle the reason I've been going to so many doctor appointments lately is because I have rectal cancer. Since she hasn't been around anyone that has cancer and doesn't know the bad stuff it can do to people, she didn't get upset or sad by the news, thank goodness. I explained the basics of all the tests I've been in for, what they've found, that the prognosis is good, that the cancer isn't contagious, and that I may have some rough, tired days ahead while I'm going through treatment. She didn't have any questions, she just soaked it all in. She did get excited when I mentioned that Grammy and Poppy will come for a few weeks to help out, so that helped relieve some of the nervous I had about telling her. At bedtime, she asked me what the tumor looked like, so I told her I'd show her pictures in the morning. She said she really wanted to see them then, most likely as a stall tactic, but I told her she'd have to wait. June 4th, Saturday. A relatively calm day. No doctor's appointments and no calls from any doctors. I went out for a run this morning and felt like crap. I had no energy and felt like I was breathing much harder than usual. It took me 31 minutes to do a 3-mile loop. I'm hoping that I am just still recovering from the fasting I had to do from yesterday's procedure. It was a beautiful day, so we spent a lot of time outside. John was trying to teach Maëlle how to ride her bike without the training wheels. We ate lunch out on the patio. I did some weeding in the backyard. Just an uneventful day. I'm starting to worry a little bit now that I've found out that the cancer has spread to some lymph nodes and that it's only 4 centimeters in. Most of the worry is just that the treatment is going to most likely be longer and more complicated than we initially thought, and hoping it doesn't change the ultimate prognosis. I haven't heard from my oncologist yet, so I'm hoping to be reassured by him a little bit that this is still curable. June 5th. We met friends at a park for a picnic and for the kids to play in the fountain and on the playground. S had invited another friend too, so I had to wait until she decided to go grab some coffee to walk off with her and tell her the news. She was shocked and had lots of questions since she's currently in nursing school. So it was nice to be able to talk to someone with a bit of knowledge on the subject. Her grandma has been undergoing treatment for over a year for stage 4 pancreatic cancer, so she had a positive story to tell about that because the doctors gave her grandma only 3 months to live, and she's currently beating the cancer over a year later. She offered to watch Maëlle anytime she's available if we need her, and she even said if John and I just need an evening to ourselves, they could have a sleepover or an evening play date at her place. Later, after I had put Maëlle to bed, Janelle was finally able to talk post-ultrasound. She had a big sigh of disappointment when I said that the cancer had spread to my nearby lymph nodes and asked me what stage that would put me in. I told her it would be stage 3, so I'll definitely have to go through radiation and chemo, plus most likely the adjuvant chemo after surgery. She said that when she talked to Mom over the weekend, Mom asked how she was staying so calm about the situation. She said there isn't really anything she can do about the situation, so there's no need to worry about it and just to take things one step at a time. She sounds a bit more concerned to me over the phone, but maybe she's hiding it when she talks to Mom and Dad. We talked about how Christmas may have to be in Colorado this year because I may be on chemo and travel may be out. I told her I'm trying to stay as upbeat as possible because worrying or being sad isn't going to get me anywhere except depressed. She said that everyone's prepared for a rough next year or so, but we'll all get through this. June 6th. No call from the oncologist today. We met another friend and her kids at the park this morning, and the girls had a blast playing with each other. They spent most of their time playing on the merry-go-round, leaping on and off of it, and running across the middle while it was spinning around. I told T about my cancer, and she of course said that she was sorry about the news, and said if we ever need a place for Maëlle to go during appointments, she has an extra car seat and can come pick up Maëlle and watch her. I told her we could drop Maëlle off if we needed her help, and thanked her. She also mentioned that they had a friend that was a radiation oncologist at a local hospital and just transferred to Mississippi, but that she could ask the friend about any recommendations. She also said that her father-in-law had been diagnosed with cancer a while ago, and the doctors weren't even going to treat him because they thought he was too far along. He ended up going to a different hospital and is still alive. All of these success stories are giving me even more hope that things will be all right in the end. I went for a run this afternoon and felt much better than I did on Saturday. Now I'm definitely thinking the crappy run was due to the fasting the previous day. Now that I'm recovered, I was able to do 3 miles on the treadmill, averaging a 9:34-minute mile, which is about average for me on a treadmill. There's a whole lot more story to share, so make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss any of the videos detailing the rest of my story. If you like this video, hit the like button below, and please consider sharing it with your friends to help me increase awareness for this crappy disease. Thank you for watching.